Hey guys, this is a group from Charleston Southern University's PA program. Today we're going to be doing an educational video on the PA Practice Acts and comparing the act from South Carolina to California. So first we're going to start with what is the AAPA. So the AAPA is an American Academy of Physician Assistants, and it is a national professional society for PAs in the United States. So they came up with 6 key elements that they recommend each state to adapt into their Practice Act. Every state has the ability to choose what is in their Practice Act, so this is just a suggestion based on what they believe embodies the PA role the best. So the 6 key elements. The first one is using licensure as a regulatory term to refer to PAs as. So instead of saying certified, we would say licensed. Number 2 is going to be full prescriptive authority. This is going to include all controlled substances class level 2 through 5. Number 3 is the scope of practice is determined at the site instead of determined by the state government. Number 4 is adaptable collaboration requirements. This as well would be determined at the site. Number 5 would be the co-signature requirements determined at the practice level, whether that means that 10% of the charts need to be signed or 30% of the charts, depending on what is best fit for that specific practice. And last but not least, number 6 is going to be the number of PAs a physician may collaborate with should be determined at the practice level versus the state government. Now we're going to start talking about the differences between South Carolina and California. First, we're going to start with our home state of South Carolina. Currently in South Carolina, we have 1,476 PAs in practice. South Carolina has adapted 2 of the 6 key elements. The first key element that South Carolina has adapted is licensure is the regulatory term. The second key element that South Carolina has adapted is prescriptive authority is determined at the practice level. South Carolina has not adapted 4 of the 6 key elements. These are as follows. Scope of practice, approved by State Medical Board. The law determines supervision. The doctor must review 10% of charts monthly. And last but not least, the doctor can't supervise more than 3 PAs at once.
Okay, now we're moving on to California. In the state of California, they have 9,042 PAs in practice. California has adopted 4 out of the 6 key elements. 2 of those are the same ones that South Carolina has adopted as well. So the first one being licensure is the regulatory term, and the second one being prescriptive authority is determined at the practice level. The third one that California has adopted out of the 6 is that the scope of practice is determined between the doctor and PA. Moving on to the fourth one that California has adopted, supervision is determined at the practice level. Although California has adopted 4 out of the 6, there are still 2 that unfortunately have not been adopted yet, and those are number 5, doctor must review a specified number of charts monthly, and lastly, the doctor can't supervise more than 4 PAs at once. Alright, some key facts for each state, starting with California. So California, you are able to have a supervising physician supervising 4 or less physician assistants.
Whereas in South Carolina, a physician can only supervise 3 or less physician assistants.
Moving on, for continuing education in California, the physician assistant must provide their continuing medical education for 50 hours every 2 years.
Whereas in South Carolina, a physician assistant must do 100 hours every 2 years.
Moving on, South Carolina and California both adopted the key element, licensure as a regulatory term. As far as prescriptive authority goes, South Carolina has only a 72-hour window to supply a Schedule II drug by the physician assistant.
And also, in both states, as a physician assistant, you must correctly identify yourself with a 3-inch badge and by stating that you are the PA at all times. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of unique facts about South Carolina. In South Carolina, out of all of the PAs practicing, there are 25% of PAs practicing in primary care. There is a total of 1,400 PAs practicing in the state of South Carolina. The most recent legislative change was in 2013 for South Carolina, and a supervising physician must be within 60 miles of their physician assistant.
Moving on to California, as far as the physician assistants practicing in primary care, about 34% of the California population is in primary care. There's about 9,000 practicing physician assistants. 2016 was the most recent legislative change for California.
lot of variability between South Carolina and California. This can be translated on a grander scale to a lot of variability across all 50 states. We think that there should be a baseline standardization across the PA profession, such as the adaptation of all 6 key elements in every state. This creates a standard for all PAs. For example, an ortho PA in South Carolina is limited in what procedures they may perform even if they are trained, whereas that PA would not be limited in a state like North Carolina that has all 6 key elements. Our group believes that it is a disservice to the profession to limit a PA's scope of practice based on the state they live in. The benefits of standardization are proven in other healthcare professions, such as with physicians or nurse practitioners, and should definitely also be adapted by the PA profession.